Hi, I'm Steve McMenamin and welcome to the New Property Show. In this show we have Mina, who's going to talk to us about tax, property and what's happening in the market. Ian Crichton from the Long Property Group talking about new property versus established, working for yourself versus being employed, and rate rises. What's going to happen next? We're also going to have Rex and Morella. They'll give us the detailed information we need to know before signing a contract, what to ask for when reading through a contract, and the do's and don'ts when comparing a HIA contract to a master builder's contract. We're also going to hear from our panel. Established property versus brand new property. Interested to hear from our panel their thoughts on this one. I'm here with Mina from Pinnacle Accounting and Advisory. Welcome to the New Property Show. Been waiting to get you on this show, Mina. First of all, accounting. So business owners, and we're going to talk about, asset classes and multiple streams of income. First of all, what's an asset class? So obviously we're going to talk about property today, but what's some other asset classes that people can invest in and you see predominantly invested in 2022? Where are they putting their money?
Yeah. I reckon I could break down asset classes into active and passive. So active is you're actively engaged in a business, and passive is where you're not actively involved in the day-to-day running of something. For example, property, which we've mentioned, stock, bonds, those types of different assets. You can buy gold, you can buy silver, and just hold on to those until the value goes up or down. You can even buy large amounts of foreign currency. They're all types of investments.
And can you use those and leverage those for property investments? We did, interview a broker a couple of weeks back, and we've talked about what you can actually consider as a deposit. Gold and silver, is that something you can leverage?
It's definitely something you can leverage, but generally speaking, based on my understanding, is the banks prefer the bricks and the mortar.
Perfect. Okay, so with this said, what's happening in the market at the moment? So your views of the market, I look at it favourably, but you get a few phone calls from real estate agents and the like. What are they saying out there? What's happening in the property market?
At the moment, because of the interest rates, the markets are scared and people don't want to sell their property at a loss. It's putting downward pressure on the price. Downward pressure means it's reducing the price that a property could be sold for. So there's less stock on the market in some areas, that's what we've been told. And people are also saying, well, the interest rates are going to go higher, which means we expect the price to go lower. We're going to wait until that actually happens before we snap up a bargain.
What is a positive income versus a negative income?
Yep, so a positive income is where the income that's coming in meets and exceeds the expenses. That's positive. You're operating at a loss, okay, when you can't meet your expenses. But there's also positively cash flowed from a cash aspect, and being negative from an income tax aspect. And that's where something like a depreciation report comes in. And the depreciation report obviously focuses on the depreciation for the building component.
Okay, so if we're going to put together a team, we've got an accountant. Who else? Maybe 3 other people that we should have on our team if we're going to look at property. Who else would you recommend? Accountant,
buyer's advocate, real estate agent, other people who are players in the property game. For example, yourself, who can look at other states to buy in. Structural engineers, so people who do a pest and structure inspection and make sure everything is sound. Obviously, brokers, finance brokers, just some of the people that come to mind.
I'm joined here with Nicole from Houseland Co. Nicole, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We sent you out on a little secret mission. The mission was, through the eyes of a customer, to actually see what it's like to buy a brand new investment property. Do you mind just telling, myself and the viewers what your task was?
So I was tasked with selecting builders. The way I did that was to choose some of the big name builders, the big volume builders, and I also chose some smaller boutique builders just to get a little bit of a mix in there. I was focusing on the west and northwest.
Okay, and what were some of the what were some of the questions that you put to them first of all when you've called them? You've called them, and did you email them, or did you go on a chatbot?
There was various channels of communication dependent on who I contacted.
Okay, and what did you find worked best for you? Was it phone call or email?
I preferred the phone call because I was able to speak to someone right at that moment, because that was the time that I was ready to speak to someone, rather than them calling them back on my time.
And I guess just for the people that are watching, what was the budget that you all set? And did they exceed that budget, they go under? And what were the packages that you end up with?
The budget was $650,000. It was, all of them had packages at that price. One of the builders even suggested that I go lower to a townhouse, and that they would have the person from the townhouse area of the company call me. I actually never received a call from that person, nor did I receive any information from that builder either on the property that I had inquired about or the price range that I had inquired about.
So were you sent an individual quote, or were you sent like a house and land flyer?
Most of them sent me a house and land flyer.
Yeah.
Which I felt was quite a generic response to my questions.
Yeah.
There was very different engagement with different people on the phone. Some people really took the time to explain to me the house and land process, which is very different to what I'm used to, as in buying a house from realestate.com in Metro Melbourne. Others just basically asked me my budget, the area I wanted to buy in, when was I ready to buy, did I have pre-approved finance, and then they sent me what I felt was quite a generic email with packages that fit the answers that I gave them.
And as a client, did you feel that they got to know you, or were they more just focused on just ticking the box?
Some did, and some didn't.
Have you had any follow-up calls from those builders?
Yes, I have.
Yep.
One, I've never received the email. Now, possibly it went into spam. I didn't check, but it would have probably been good for them to follow up after they sent the email. Did you receive my email? Because obviously, if they did send it and went into spam, then at that point we could have had it. Well, yes, now I have received it. So basically, I feel like I haven't been contacted by them.
So with that, we're going to cover in the next episode actually the results of your shopping and how that went. So far, are the girls winning or the boys?
There's one gentleman that was a standout for me, and there's also one lady that was a standout for me. However, the lady was the one that I have not received the information from.
I'm here with Ian from Long Property Group, who's a finance broker. Ian, finance broking, challenging times, I guess, for the last couple of years for you guys during COVID, writing loans at home. We've been discussing a few things behind the scenes. So you've been writing loans now for a bit over 2 years.
Yep.
What's the average loan size that you're writing?
Really between like 800 to 1.5 to $1 million. We've got quite a lot of self-employed people or people with multiple portfolios, so that isn't necessarily 800 per loan, but by the time you add them up.
Perfect.
Yep.
So what I guess we're covering on the New Property Show is not necessarily just new property, but what to do after you've taken the steps in terms of building up your portfolio.
Yep.
What have been some of the, I guess, success secrets for the people that have maybe 4 or more properties? What have they done right?
It's just about time in the market. Obviously, you need that time to grow, but then having the correct finance structures. So initially, we were talking earlier about interest-only loans. They're great, but they do limit how much you can borrow because banks penalise it a little bit harshly. So if you can afford it, pay the principal and interest if it's all investment debt. Yeah.
Perfect. And what are your thoughts? I guess you're an investor yourself. Have you, I guess, considered recommending people to build new properties before, or they're buying sort of inner suburbs in Melbourne?
You know, we do get people that rebuild, but it's often maybe they've bought a land banker in Melbourne. You know, it's a decent location, decent bit of land, but the house is old and tired, and then they'll knock it down and put 2 on it. So like, yeah, we do have a lot of clients that go down that construction phase, and then they're getting a lot more bang for the buck for the land.
So time in the market, obviously something we've touched on here. You come from the fitness background. What's easier? Is it easier to get fit or save money?
Well, I would say if you don't have the discipline to do one, you're not going to have the discipline to do the other, right?
Yeah, so hand in hand, I guess, mindset, health, wealthy and wise really does come into it with broking. Okay, so you're obviously a couple of years in now with the broking. What do you think is going to happen in 2023? What's happening in the property market?
I think it will be a bit softer. You know, definitely we're getting a lot less activity around purchases, but there's still a lot of refinancing. Like we're advising people that if you can refinance just now and take some equity out of your home loan, I would do that now in case the values do continue to
Put a little
soften.
bit of cash in the bank and put that aside. So you've got a safety
Yeah,
net.
a buffer, yep.
Okay, we're going to change topics for a second. For the younger viewers, the ones that are living at home now or basically they're renting out with their friends, what would you suggest to them? So some of them may not be able to buy their own property yet. What's another alternative? What would you do?
Well, if you purchase as an investment, then you obviously get the benefit of some rental income, and then you get some tax benefits depending on how it's geared. So definitely that. And then for people that are already at home in terms of saving, I would be imagining that I have a mortgage already. So so putting that money rather than spending it, imagine you've got a mortgage and that will build your savings buffer, and then you can go out and purchase.
What's your thoughts on rate rises and where that's going to go next year?
I would be preparing for at least another 1%. A lot of the sort of economists at banks don't necessarily think it will go that high, but you just don't want to catch yourself short. So I would be preparing for the worst so that you've always got a good safety net.
Perfect. Ian, thank you so much for joining us on the New Property Show.
Thank you.
I'm here with Mirella and Rex here from Bond Conveyancing. Thank you for joining us on the New Property Show. I have found in the past that some developers I've felt have pushed land out intentionally to exit out of an existing contract that might be $300,000 where they thought the land value might be $400,000. They push clients out. Any advice on that?
Some developers used to to get finance and you get a number of pre-settlements or pre-sales done. So they get the pre-sales done for a low price and they'll put a low sunset clause, and in the old days either the vendor or the purchaser, the developer or the purchaser can get out of contract if you went to the sunset date and it didn't. The state government of Victoria changed the laws on that and they can't do it anymore.
Perfect. We're going to change lanes now. You now have a building contract in front of you. It's either a HIA or a master builder's contract. What are some of the things that people should watch out for when reading through a contract? And last but not least, progress payments, any other terminologies that they should really just have a skim over. And of course, they're going to get professional advice from you guys. But what are some of the things that you will find in those contracts that seem to come up a lot?
The most important, I think, is the specifications. What are they actually getting? The contract itself, the HIO, the master builders, are pretty standard. They're the same, but they're always builder favourable as well. But the major part is the schedule pages and what's included, because anything that's not included becomes a variation and you pay extra. So you may think that you're getting a tiled floor, you may not be getting it, or you may think you can choose the tile, but you don't get to choose it. And the moment you go to change what you wanted or what you thought is right, you're paying extra and big variations. So the specifications is really important. The second part I would say is liquidated damages. If the builder goes overboard, like as in there's a time frame in the contract, so make sure
260 days, for example.
260 days, so they've got to finish it within 260 days. Then there's normally a weekly payment of liquidated damages if the builder agrees that if I go over 260 days, I'll pay you, it's normally $100 or maybe $200.
I've seen some 250s in there. They've reduced those to 100 now. All right. And what about yourself, Mirella? What would you actually say? What carries more weight, the drawings or what's written?
What do you mean the drawings?
So in a builder's contract, what may happen sometimes is the drawings may show a facade and a different variation from what's written. So there might be, for example, a St. Mary's facade that's drawn, and in the written form, it may be a Lucy facade. There's sometimes been debates there because one costs more than the other. What really carries the weight? What's written or what's drawn?
What's in the contract?
What's written in the contract.
That's a great answer.
What's in the contract?
And I can't
written
stress enough to all my clients, always just whatever you've discussed at the time of negotiations, just make sure everything is in writing. All representations have to be in the contract. If they're not, then we can't enforce that at settlement. They've got to take further legal action. Just to give you an example, I've had clients in the past where they've bought a property thinking they get air conditioning and central heating, and then it wasn't in the contract, it was in the marketing material by the agent. So it just takes so much and it's so costly for the purchaser after settlement to have to bring up legal action against the builder or the developer. It makes a big difference for a person who's going to live in the property in winter to have central heating or not. You know,
It does.
that is so important. So all the conditions and the terms of the contract, it's really what carries the weight.
Beautiful. I have one last question for you. Solicitor versus conveyancer. Who wins and why?
That's a debate because I'm a licensed conveyancer.
I'm a
Rex is a solicitor.
And look, one conveyancer is a law firm as well. I am biased, but I always say lawyers go for law firm.
One can get you in, one can also get you out.
Pretty much, because if something goes wrong, a conveyancing firm can't. I know it's called bond conveyancing, but it's a law firm. So if something goes wrong, we have litigation lawyers that'll get you out of it and can fight for you. If you go to just a conveyancing practice, they can't do it. They're going to then give it to a law firm who's going to then read the file, catch up on it, and it's going to cost you a lot more.
Yeah.
Morella, and your thoughts?
I have to agree with Rex. Look, I love being a conveyancer, but I guess the benefit of a law firm is that a conveyancer can actually get direct access to support. Let's say if we need to draft a special condition, if we question a condition that's been drafted when we're acting for a purchaser, we've got the lawyers there, we've got the law firm, we've got all the resources to ask questions immediately there on the spot. Whereas as a conveyancer, if I was trading just as a conveyancer, I would have to say to my clients, look, this is really outside my scope. I cannot give you any legal advice, so you'll have to go to a lawyer. A lawyer will have to, get a briefing on the case and they charge an hourly rate, so it could be more costly at the end of the day.
Okay, and what are your thoughts on, I guess versus established areas? Looking at new properties, you've got infrastructure, you've got community benefits. Also, too, I like being surrounded personally by, a whole heap of brand new neighbours. We actually get to pretty well choose your neighbours. You can have your friends move in. Have you guys ever built a new home?
I have done that. So the only reason I moved to West because my friends were living in the same estate, and I had the opportunity to stay with them for the first 12 months before I can move back to Hawthorne. So you're right. You get the benefit that you can stay with your friends in the West, where the community is still building, and then you can move back. Whereas in the existing house, you don't know who would be your neighbors, and I feel like the maintenance cost would be much higher compared to the new house.
Okay, so maintenance costs. So there's some other benefits like builder's warranty and that as well.
And taxes.
So talk to me about that. So have you had any issues, maybe Rex, being both a lawyer and conveyancer as well? There'd be some substantial benefits with building a new home because with an old property sometimes can come with existing problems. So pros and cons on that.
We see both sides. So we see properties, new builds that go wrong. We're going to end up in VCAT for a few years with experts and stuff, and we see it with existing properties that you have disputes with previous vendors not disclosing stuff. So we see it from both ends. There's no real benefit either way. The advantage, I suppose, would be for new homes because you do have builder's warranty.
Perfect. And Rebecca, so what are some of the challenges that you've seen on site with building a new home? So we are fighting for the new home. It is a new property show.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things that can go wrong that you've, experienced?
I think there's so much in property that can go wrong, and you can equip yourself and jump on the forums and try and get across the common issues, but in reality every build is different, so you come across different hurdles. So the biggest thing is just being clear on what you're wanting, finding the ideal fit builder, just being super clear on what you're getting yourself into, and then you can avoid a big majority of that.
Okay.
A big part of that, I think, is the contract. You've got to make sure the specifications specified in your contract is how you wanted it, not pursuant to some marketing material, but it needs to be specified.
I think the other thing that no one really ever talks about is how it makes you feel. Buying an established property, I guess for homes, it's a great feeling to own your own home, and sometimes that can be established. But the satisfaction of actually turning up at site and watching your property come out of the ground and having the communication with the back end, the site supervisors, knowing that you've created something, I guess, from an idea I personally would stalk my place every day.
Oh, you're that guy?
I drive past it every single day. Now, nowadays, I guess we're building outside of states. So maybe let's talk about building a new home as an investment. We're going to go outside of Victoria. It doesn't matter. We're going to throw the wheel out there. We'll call it Queensland or Perth. What would you do then? In that case, would you still buy or build a brand new home in an outside state? Which way would you lean then? Would that
Look,
change
it's a
your
new
answer?
property show, so I would say build a new one. Again, same benefits. You get better tax depreciation on the whole house. You get to choose how to build it and how the looks and feels. So there's a lot of extra benefits for building a new house.
Perfect. And what about you, Kerry? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think my opinion on that is that you just need to make sure that you are doing it with the right company, that you know the company, you know the background, you make sure that they have a good reputation, you get guided by experts to help you.
How would you save money if you were building a new property? What's a couple of tips that you do to save money? Where do you think the money's made? I think I've got my answer. But how would you save money?
You save money in so many ways. You save money straight away from the acquisition time. You save money by stamp duty. You're paying less stamp duty. The moment you do settle, you save money on depreciation. Your tax is going to be less. You also get a planning. So new property takes a while to build. So you're planning and saving along the way as well.
What about you, Kerry? What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think it's pretty clear in the time that I've been mortgage broking that most people they're saving from as you said, the day they sign that contract. In a lot of cases, there's clear evidence that there's just not enough land, right? So the demand there just keeps pushing the land prices up.
Yourself?
My say is to have something with a longer settlement, which gives you enough time to save on it. At the same time, it's easier to have two separate accounts where you can have one as your normal day spending account where you're spending for your groceries and everything, and the other is solely for your saving, which helps you see how much you're increasing every month by month, and you can have a set target that the land is going to settle in 12 months. I need this much amount to be saved every month to reach that goal.
And Rebecca?
I think with the new builds, there's a big saving that kind of goes unspoken in regards to being super clear on what it is that you want. Quite often when you start the process of finding a builder and going through that whole thing, you end up with a big chunk of whether it's promotions or things that are included with a particular builder's standard inclusion. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of value in being super clear on what it is that's important to you and kind of sticking to the lane.
Well, I'm going to give you guys a different answer. Are we ready? We talk about property. What's the most important asset? What is the property built on?
Land.
Excellent. So the saving, therefore, could really be made in the land. We could call it the new land show. But what I think is that what you could do is you ring around 50 land agents, you ring around 50 solicitors and conveyancers, and you may say, is there any nomination land? Is any land that can't be settled? And sometimes I've heard of people buying land $50,000 under market value, and that's another good way to make some savings. So, Rex, have you come across that?
It does happen. It does happen a lot. Look, people buy with a long settlement, so there's a sunset clause in any land contract, which is 12, 24 months away before it's titled. So you sign a contract, you pay a deposit, but then your circumstances change, and by the time you get to settlement, you can't afford to settle, or the banks won't lend you money. So for those people to save their deposit or get part of their deposit back, they agree to just offload it.
Perfect. Any other final thoughts before we wrap?
Yeah, with the nomination, that's a common strategy for us when we're doing land sourcing for people. You always look out for those nominations. You generally will find that they're blocks, obviously, because they've been priced when they were initially sold. So in some cases, it could be 12 months or something prior. But because they're priced at that original price point, they move really quick. So they're often the blocks that don't go on a traditional land list that you might get or see going around to land estates. So being linked into whether it's a real estate agent or a professional in the industry that actually has connections in that, you get exposed to that quite regularly.
Excellent, guys. I want to thank you for your time. Well done on your questions, and I'll see you shortly for your next one.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.